Hello, and welcome to another photo episode of Versace Studios Photo Talk Learning Hour.
Yeah, and
T-
we almost got late because the tech is not helping.
Today is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all our mothers out there.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day. My fuel light
Yep.
just turned off.
So today is going to be a little bit of an education day. We will be talking about the inverse square law and its importance to photography.
Yeah, I will already ask for you to bear with us because it's the first time we are doing this on my side. And we decided this yesterday, so it was kind of really fast to set up everything. We're gonna do some theory and some practical stuff here live for the second time.
Yep. So we're going to be using Alex's studio. Uh, and we'll kind of show you real quick. You're gonna catch these nice little angles.
Yeah, that's a nice little angle. You missed one.
Exactly. So, which one?
What is the third angle?
Third angle's not there.
Oh, the third angle. Okay, forget it.
So, but yeah.
The third
So
angle
we'll
is
be able
right
to
here.
cover it from different angles, and we're gonna push it through so you can see how far the subject is from the light. It's basically what it creates, how it relates to your background light, all of that put together, which equals the inverse square law.
Yeah, as usual, we don't have a script.
Well, we're not
and
going
we're gonna
to
run. We're gonna run.
We're going to try to keep this kind of simple so people can learn it instead of difficult and making it kind of hard to learn. If you know what I mean.
Want to talk about the theory first?
I mean, yeah, we can. So the inverse square law is basically one of the most misunderstood concepts by beginner photographers. I could tell you that because I hear it all the time of, different ways that people think of it. Like some people think it halves the light, which is completely off. Okay. A little history lesson is Sir Isaac Newton takes credit for this origin of the inverse square law, which basically applies to all physical laws such as light, sound, gravity, and even radio waves. In case of photography, though, simply put, when a light source is moved twice the distance from a subject, the light that falls on the subject decreases 4 times, and the light then path expands out over an area 4 times greater in width and height. This information is important for studio photographers basically to understand. In a technical term, any physical law stating that some physical quantity or strength is inversely proportional to the square of the distance of the source of that physical quantity. With a definition like that, you're probably wondering what on earth
I don't get it.
Possibly do with photography, and no one could blame you. All right, inverse square laws apply to many, many things in the world. Today, however, we're only going to be looking at one of them: light. Is that good enough?
Yeah. Let's bring the banner.
Like 2 breaths.
Let's bring the banner to exemplify or not.
Overlay.
Sorry. So this is what we are talking about.
All right. So
and this is what we're gonna kind of demonstrate to you. Although I don't have 8 feet to distance to put my flash from the model, but
okay. So the law itself in photography applies to lighting. Okay. It applies to any sort of lighting, really, but most relevant application is with off-camera lighting. So in a nutshell, the inverse square law teaches us how light works over distance and why the distance between your light source and your subject is so important. Okay, so
the idea is to understand the fall off of the light. It helps you to understand the fall off and how how your shadows gonna behave.
And it also helps with determining an f-stop if you move it half the distance or
Yeah.
full distance, however you want. So let's say, for instance, let's say we have a light source that's on full power, right? And our subject is 1 meter away. Okay. Well, if we move our subject double the distance away from the light, so now 2 meters, how much light power will reach that subject? The natural reaction is to think half power, but unfortunately, that's not how light works. It follows an inverse square law. Okay. And I think we have a graphic to show that,
Do you
don't
want
we?
me the other do you want me to show the other graphic?
Yeah, show the
So
equation. Show the
the
equation.
equation.
Yeah. So looking at this equation, okay, it's pretty simple once you learn how it works. Okay. So according to the law, the power of the light will be inversely proportional to the square of the distance. Okay. So if we take the distance of 2 and square it, we get 4, right? So the inverse of which would be 1/4, or rather a quarter of the original power, not half the power. Okay. So let's say moving our subject 3 meters from the light, you get 3 times 3 equals 9. So it's 1/9 the power of our light source now becomes 1/9 of its original. Okay. So, um, is that the doubles? Go to double distance full.
The full one.
Yeah. There we go. So, in looking at this type of chart, right? Um, we're looking at the light intensity as it doubles in distance. Okay, so here's how the drop in light power actually work from 1 to, I guess that's 10 feet. Remember that each one is simply a distance squared over 1. Okay, so the inverse square law explains the dramatic drop off of light over the distance. We can use this information to better understand how our lights are affecting our subject, and by that measure, how to control them better. Okay.
We'll
And
start
if
to
you're
go
looking,
to the studio and start to prepare stuff. Okay.
yep. And while Alex is gone, I'll continue talking real quick. So if you're looking at it, okay, so at 1 feet, let's say you got your power at, it doesn't matter, you can have it at half power. Okay. So at half power, you're at this 1 foot spot, right? So you're at 1 power, which is now at half power on your gauge, is equal to 1 whole foot. Okay. If you move the subject, this way, okay. So say you move it double the distance, which now is 2 feet, right? You're using 1/4 of that half power, if that makes sense to you. So at your 1/4 level, okay, you're now taking your 1/2 and going to 1/4 of that half. Okay. And now going from 2 to 4 feet, let's go this way, 4 feet. All right. Now you're at a 16th of that power. Okay. So how does this relate to f stops? That's now probably what's in your head. And I just moved my mic. Hey. All right. So let's take a look at how we do this in here. Where'd you put it? There we go. Okay. So when we're looking at the distances, okay, so let's just say at 1, we're at whatever stop we're on. Let's say F11, right? Now we double that distance, we reduce 2 stops of light, roughly 1 stop of light, right? So now instead of F11, we're now at F8. Okay. And so on, so on, so on. So as it gets further and further, you can see your f-stops drop. So you're wanting to reduce those f-stops as it goes down. Okay.
Yeah. Let's make Rome angry right now.
Why? Oh, he's using a meter. That's fine. For this we could show meter.
Okay, that's back.
All right. So what Alex is doing is he's taking a meter reading, and he is. Let me get this in the full screen here.
Or get a focus on this one.
Yeah.
I think this scanner here is wrong.
Say again.
This one. Can you see the numbers?
Yeah, it's 5.0. So he's at 1/125th of a second, ISO 100, and a shutter. What is that? Your exposure is 5.0.
My aperture is 5, ISO 100, and I'm shooting at 1/160. That is the sync speed for this camera.
Okay. So that's another important part is know your sync speed. So now we're looking at to get what he needs. He had metered it. Okay. So right now you're what? How far away? A meter?
I kind of 2 feet, because if I
2
put
feet?
closer, the softbox will close down. It will not be able to see.
That's fine. All right. So
I'll take
at
the
2
picture
feet.
because it will take some time to get to you, because you are on the other side of the America.
The world.
Okay, I don't know if you got there. It's not that one. There are 2 of her. It's the second
It's
one.
still coming.
So one thing to be aware of it is not only how the light falls in the doll, in the dummy, but how the light falls in the background. Which camera am I? I'm on that one. I don't know.
So yeah. So now you can see at the 5.0, he shoots in monochrome. So this is monochrome image.
If you want, I can change to color.
No, it's fine because it's showing the intensity. So when we're looking at this, okay, you notice all the highlights are in check, everything's like that. It's still a little hot, but that's a meter. Meters are never right. I hate to tell you.
And there is the point that my dummy is kind of white. It's not skin color, so maybe this is kind of.
So, okay.
So you can see we got a really dark background. Can you come back to the picture?
Oh.
We got a really dark background. Can you zoom in the face? I think if you see it's hit space, you're gonna get full screen. Or not.
I don't think it's going to show it. Hold on. Got to play around over here. Now it should work. Let's see what we got going. Technical difficulties.
Okay.
Hey, look at that.
See, the fall off of the light is very fast. So it goes from the bright part straight to almost pitch black in like really fast, you know?
Yeah.
So now I think we can try to double the distance. I think we want here. And let's take a reading because it makes it easier for me.
So now if you notice, he's moved it back 4 feet. So now moving it back 4 feet, he's now at a quarter of the power of light.
Just give me 1 second. Looks like everything is happening today, you know? Now my radio just...
Our test run yesterday was flawless. And then today, of course, you know, you get your audio gremlins.
Camera problems, radio problems. Looks like everything decided to happen today. It's back.
It's live.
Yeah, but we are smart. We tried several batteries, so now I have 3.2. 3.3, to be honest. No, 3.2. Come on, guys. Just be in mind that... Oh, I don't have 3.2 here. Let me change my ISO. This mess is all F4.
Then you didn't move it exactly double.
So I'm going to ISO 200 or no?
No, you leave your ISO the same. You just have to...
My lens doesn't open more. It's an F4 lens. So this will be at ISO 200.
So now we're talking about the square law utilizing the exposure triangle.
Yeah. We just double up the distance. So what we lost, let's stop. We have to do what? To pay for it, to compensate somehow. So we could do that opening the aperture, but this is a 24-105 f4, so I cannot open it more. We could just put more power in the light, or I can just double my ISO and get 1 stop more because we lost 1 stop.
Correct.
Anything else, Troy?
So we can look at the images, and if you notice the fall off, if you look at the nose area, you notice it got a lot less of a fall off right here. Notice the background kind of lit up just a little bit if you go back and forth. See how dark it is? And
This is the first one?
Yeah, that's the first one. You can see how dark that fall off is coming off the nose, the chin, this area here. If we spin it to the next one, you can see how the light's kind of gotten into that shadow a little bit. You can see how this is a little lighter, and then the background has gotten lighter. So it's increased.
Sorry. I'm running out of space, so instead of moving, I have to move the doll. Okay, so I don't know if I double it. Let me take one more reading here. Okay, you are seeing me using a light meter, but I don't. I stopped using a light meter for a long time right now. What we recommend you to use is this with your histogram. But right now I don't have any cards in the camera. I'm shooting tethered, so I cannot see the images. I can only see the images after I shoot when Rome shows up on the screen. That's why I'm using the light meter, to be honest. So I didn't change. We double the distance again. What happens, Rome, when you double the distance?
Well, yeah, you lose the f-stop. But let's see.
So guess what I did?
2. So what do you at? F6 or 6? What do you got? 6 or 8 feet?
I just added 1 stop of ISO, so I'm at ISO 400 right now.
Walk it out and see if you're like 8 feet away.
I don't think that is that much, but anyway, let's see. 7.5.
Push her back like 6 inches. There you go. So it takes
So guys, tell me
fingerprint.
what you think about this kind of while the images are coming. Tell me in the chat what you think about this kind of show when we work like this. Hey, Rafa, how are you, man? When we do things like this, because we are planning to bring much more. This is the first one. On my side, of course, Ron did one where he taught classic portrait lighting. And this is the first one on my side. We are thinking about bringing much more of those, but we need to fix up some things. So tell me what you think about it, if you like it or not, and subscribe, like us, hit the bell icon, and all that good stuff, so we can keep bringing stuff for you.
Okay, so now we got that up. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of slow. We need to find a faster way.
Well, I mean, we're traveling 8,000 miles in a matter of, less than 10 seconds. So I think that's cool. All right. So now we're looking at this one. All right. If I could zoom in here, let's see. Here. Slow back. Come here. Jeez. Testy.
Oh, it's forget it. It's bridge.
There we go.
Or you zoom everything, or you zoom anything. There's no middle.
So now we're looking at this shadowing. You can see how it's all lightened up, right? I mean, now your light is barely noticeable, but it does have a shadow. It's just not as big of a shadow, right?
What is noticeable right now? That I dropped my gun on the floor and had Moses smash. Domestic violence. By the way,
But now,
the name of the doll is Annabelle.
so now if you look at the background, look how lit up it is all over. So it's increased that width and height of the light and also made more of a wrap of light, which the light now shows less shadows.
Yeah, and you're getting at it because I'm using the cheaper tweet soft spots with the green.
And
So,
now the reverse square law, which shows the shadow section of her, if you look at that part, it becomes darker because she's closer to that position. So her shadow is now being casted because of her distance in relation to the backdrop. If she was 5 feet away or 8 feet away from that backdrop, that shadow would have been probably nowhere. So just giving you that relationship on the opposite side. So
yeah, another thing that should be worth to mention is that it's always a trade. What happens when you get the modifier much closer? You get a transition from light to shadow that's more soft, more gradient. So you get a softer light. As soon as you start to push, but you get more contrast too, because the fall off will be very fast. As soon as you push the light far from it, the fall off will gonna be slower, but you're still gonna have a harder light because the source is more in relation.
right. I mean, if you could see it right here, just these 3 levels. Okay, this one was about 2 feet away. This one was about 4 feet away. And this one was 8 feet away. 4 times 4 is 8. So yeah. So you can see how quick, if you want deep shadows, quick fall off, what we mean by fall off is right here. If you notice this shadowing, it has a very quick fall off. It goes from light to dark very quickly. Okay. Now, if I go to the next one, you can see how this isn't as dark, right? It kind of more of a graduation of the shadow to light. And then if we go to the last one, you can see there's basically a hint of shadow in this area. Okay.
So
So-
how do you fight the harder light because the light is too far from the subject? How do you fight the harder light if you want a less fast fall off? You have to bring a bigger source. So usually from this position, is there any camera that they can see the distance?
This one.
Usually to shoot this distance, if I want, this is a very small space, okay? It's like 12 feet by 12 feet. It's a bit less to be honest, but anyway. To shoot this distance, I usually put here a bigger modifier or a 4 feet umbrella with a sock to shoot there and make the light soft. Which camera am I? This one?
It'll do it. Yeah. Yeah.
To
It'll
make the
do a
light.
wraparound.
Yeah, exactly. Keep going.
So with the larger the modifier, the softer the light is. So it wraps more around the face with a larger softbox. Okay. And then it's the same effect here, except this one's more of, a 2x3. So it's about the size of her head. So of course you're going to see those shadows come a lot more darker to make the shadow fall off. Okay. But if he switched that 2x3 with a 9 or 7 foot umbrella, you would have saw the shadows would have been really, really soft and gradual at close range. Then as it goes away, it's going to become more flatter and flatter light, which is what we seen just now when he shot it with the 2x3. So,
Guys, if you have questions, just drop in the chat box. Is there anything else you want to show them?
yeah, I mean, that's basically all we needed to show for today. Today's Mother's Day, so we're trying to do this without our wives getting pissed off.
Yeah, we just have like half an hour more at most.
Yeah. So, one thing that
You can bring me if you want.
where are you? Okay.
Vlogging style.
Yeah. So, that's one of the best parts is we're trying to bring in studio stuff into Alive, which this has been I'm all the way in the States. He's all the way in Brazil. So we're trying to figure this thing out. Hopefully this came out pretty decent so you guys could actually understand it and it worked out. Let us know in the comments below. Was this helpful?
And this was in the middle of the quarantine, so
Yeah.
we don't have models to show up soon. I'll have some models and we're gonna shoot. So, okay, let me come back to the desk and we keep talking from there.
So, yeah. So the inverse square law, just remember that basically every time you double the distance, you're gaining less stop. So you need to increase that stop to make it wider to let in more light, because the individuals that are in front of that light are losing light as they go further away. As they go further away, you have to increase your f-stops to compensate. And like what happened with Alex, which is a great opportunity to talk about, is the exposure triangle. You're now looking at, he could only get to 3.5. That was as low as he could go. Well, he had to go, he could only get to 4. So he had to reduce his ISO in order to compensate for that last stop that he needed. So he had to reduce a stop of ISO or increase the stop of ISO in order to make more intensity of light to make that shot make. So That's square law. I mean, square law in effect is one of the easier concepts. You just remember everything is division by 2. So if you double the distance, whatever itself times itself, you're not going to move up 2 f-stops.
The problem is people try to make this much more complicated than it really is.
Right. Now, I say get your camera, do the same thing we just did just now. Put a dummy, an apple, doesn't have to be a mannequin like we use, but anything. It could be your laptop. Stick it right there. Bring a light up close.
To be honest, anything that is round, like a ball, an egg, an orange, would be really good to see the fall off.
Exactly.
The wrapping
So
effect.
even an egg. I mean, an egg is rounded and you'll see the shadows and everything and how it works. So if you're trying to learn the square law rule, I'm being honest with you, take an object, stick it out there, measure your distance from your light to your subject, and then just move that light source back double the distance of what it is. So if you're a foot away, go 2 feet, then 4 feet.
And
then
guys,
you can go.
some things to remember. First, this apply to any light source. Doesn't matter if you are using flash, if you are using continuous, or if you are using your flashlight. It will apply to your flashlight. You can try this at home with an egg and a flashlight, and you have the same results as we had here.
Yep. I mean, it's any light. That's how light works. Light expands, it becomes larger, but its intensity is reduced as it goes further. So that's the big misconception, is that intensity part from its distance. And I mean, I don't know how many people said, "Oh, it's only half the light." Yeah, no. And I see that quite a lot, actually.
One misconception is that they think that if you go from 1 to 3, it's just half, 1/3 of the light or half of the light. It doesn't. It's different.
Right.
And you don't really need to know all the math. Of course, as Rome said at the beginning, the math is useful for you to guess what you have to compensate before you even click. But the part of the fall off, the contrast, and the wrapping part is very important for you to know what your light is doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's remember that the square law, the numbers get bigger more and more quickly. However, with the inverse square law, right? I'm just trying to think of how I could say this. With the inverse square law, the numbers get smaller more and more slowly, right? So the further it goes out, the slower that amount of need for light.
Can I bring the percentage? Because I think here will be more clear.
Yeah, there you go.
The first step, you'll lose 75% of your light. If you start to look to the end of the
move your face away from the mic a little bit. You're screeching. Yeah.
If you start to look a bit more to the end of the graph, you're going to see that the changes are very small. So as far as you are, so tell you. So you teach. I need to figure out my stuff.
So anyway, what he's trying to say is that, okay, when you take that first shot, you're at the 1 foot mark, right? This is just an explanation in feet to make it easy. Okay, let's say it's 1 feet away. Your light's here, you're 1 feet, right? You get 100% on that setting. Okay. As it goes away, you can see 1 to 2 feet is only 25% reduction. Okay. That's a huge fall, right? So it goes from 100 to 25%. Then from 2 feet to 3 feet, you're dropping another large chunk, which is 25% of that light down to 11% of the light. Then as it goes out further, you notice how much shallower that light loss is. So now you're dropping down 4%, you go to 6, you got 3%, 7 is only 2%. So you're only losing 1% basically from 5 feet all the way out. Where you at 1% at 10 feet, which I'm pretty sure you probably need to change something because it's too far.
Another important thing to notice is, let's suppose you are doing product photography and you are shooting a laptop. A laptop has around 1 feet of uh, size. It's the size of almost
Yeah.
1 feet. So you're gonna have, if you put your light right in front of the laptop, you're gonna have 100% light in the beginning of the laptop, and you'll be just 25 at the end of it. So you're gonna have a very different light, a very dramatic light in that picture.
Yep. So, just trying to think of how we could do it. Notice really that there's a 75% drop in light from 1 to 2 meters. Okay. But there's only 5% drop in light from 4 meters to 10 meters. Okay. That's the big takeaway here, is that from 4 meters all the way out there to 10 meters, you're not losing a lot of light in between there. That's why I like to shoot my lights usually for like groups and stuff like that is right there in that 5 to 8 mark, because it's only 1%, 2% light difference left or
Yeah.
right.
Another important thing to notice is that we are talking feet sometimes, we are talking meters sometimes. Doesn't matter what is your measure.
Right.
Your
Doesn't
measure
matter your unit of measurement.
unit.
Just make sure if you
Doesn't matter.
double it, you double it. So that's the big key takeaway. Anything that's up close, remember it's a quick fall off of light. Anything that's further away is a slow, gradual fall off of light. Now, the
I always
thing
had
about that is it's also the type of light source. So if I'm using a small flash, right, a speed light, it still works to the extent of how it falls off. The problem is that the intensity of that light is going to drop dramatically because 75 watts may not be able to hit 10 feet because there's too much ambient light in the room. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. Is just the basics of how this works. Now, as you get used to your gear, which is why we always say keep practicing with your gear, try it out, do it over and over and over, use a different light, use a different modifier, right? And every time you use something different, you have to go through these steps and figure out, where am I? How does this affect at 9 feet outside? How does this affect at 10 feet outside? How does this affect at 3 feet outside? Then do it inside. It's going to be, you're going to see some differences just because of ambient lights. So, depending on where you're at with shutter speed, ISO, and all that good stuff. But that was the basics. Basic
of the
fundamentals.
versus square light. We gonna cover this much more in depth in the course we are building, and as soon as we release it, we're gonna tell you guys. And
Yeah,
I
it's
think what
definitely
next week we can go for hard and soft light, specular highlights, diffused highlights,
yeah, we can.
boring.
I mean, I'm thinking maybe we should do something like size difference, showing what a speed light does compared to a medium softbox compared to a large light source.
Leave it in the comments. What you want to
Leave it in the
see
comments.
next
What do
week?
y'all want to see? We're trying to
Difference
come up with
between
things
hard
that
and soft
people-
light, difference between of monolights and speed lights, and how to deal with it. Because if we're gonna build it, we're gonna make portraits with both of them.
Yep. So, I mean, we're here to answer questions, and this video was basically created because of questions that we receive in our Facebook page. So, we do have a Facebook group So if you guys go out there, I'm sure we could put it down here somewhere.
It's already in
for
the
the
description.
Facebook. Okay, so yeah, just come over to the Facebook group. You'll be able to talk, and we read them. Don't think we don't. And in fact, we could probably make a post for this specific category where we say take an object, and I think I keep hitting this thing. Take an object and perform this. Do it at 1 foot, do it at 2 feet, do it at 4 feet, do it at 8 feet, hell, do it at 16 feet. Just so you could see what it's doing.
I just have 8. I don't have
Huh?
it anymore. 16 for me is impossible. I'm sorry.
Now you go outside. But yeah. So anyway, it's, and you can zoom all day and it's not going to change. So just letting you know, if you put something out 16 feet and you want to zoom into 200, the light's still going to be the same. The intensity is still the same.
The importance, what is important here is not how far you are from the subject. It's how far the light is from the subject and the subject is from the backdrop. That's what matters. It's what we are doing with this light intensity. Can you bring the pictures again?
Yeah. It's there.
I'm just the voice of God right now.
Yeah.
So can we go from the first one to the last one just to check the backdrop?
All right. So this is the first one. You can see how dark it is.
Let me do one
This
more
is
thing here. Wait.
Second one.
I think this picture, this frame, you can see exactly what is the color of my backdrop. This is exactly the color of my
It's
backdrop.
thunder gray.
Okay. So
Thunder gray.
okay, let's come back.
Yep. So in the first one, you can see thunder gray turn black. I mean, you got to remember, never edit anything pure black. There's nothing in the world pure black. This is not, well, here. That's not pure black, okay? Even though it is black. Nothing in the world is pure black. So if you're editing, do not make it 0. Just to give you a little tidbit. Now, if we're looking at this is the black background. I mean, this is black for sure. All right. Then if we go to 2, you'll see it opened up to about
in the first picture. I think she was like 3 feet or 4 feet away from the
right. She was way away. She was like, I don't know. She looked like 6 almost.
Oh, it's because I'm using a grid.
Well, I was counting the towels on the floor.
I could do that,
but a piece.
I forgot.
So yeah, so we have this one which is dark, so she's far away from the background. Lights, was 2 feet away. Then we moved to this one where the light was 4 feet away, but she stayed the same spot. So now you're seeing how the background is lighter, right? And at the same time, her shadow that's from her is larger. Do you see the shadow right there? It's like really.
Yeah. There is a bunch of ways to fight this. You can just put your. My light was straight on her. I could have put like 45 degrees down to put the shadows down. Doesn't show up in the frame.
Yeah, you could see that picture right there. It's basically at her chest level, or right at her eye level, really.
Yep.
So
no, I think the top of the softbox was kind of same height of your hair, her hair.
Right. So you could also look at how the shadow is on the nose. I zoom in. You can see the angle that shadow was. So he's actually, about dead on. So yeah, he's not up very high, right? But
she doesn't want her wrinkles to show up,
Yeah. So, her nose wrinkle is real bad, so you're gonna have to fix that in post.
That's domestic violence.
But anyway, it's showing how at 4 feet you're getting some of that light into the background, more lights hitting more of a distance, top to bottom, left to right. And in a group setting, this also takes place. So let's say like the group is 5 feet wide. Well, now if you're 2 feet up to the group, your edges are going to be, you're going to miss like 4 people, right? But if you pull that light back, let's say 8 feet, now you're going to cover the group of an even light. If you want to look at it from a group perspective and how it
We
works in
talked about
relation.
this in another show, but I don't remember which show was it. Oh, it was one of the Brazilian ones, wasn't?
Yeah, I think you guys did it.
No, I think
So
you were there and you brought your those pictures from that last shoot.
yeah, yeah. So so the inverse square law also applies to group photos if you're looking at it from how wide the group is. So the distance of your light needs to spread far enough to hit, or you use two lights that, if you understand their distances, you're going to get an even light all the way across the group. So, like that one right there. So, I forgot I even had that on the back. So we have that one, and now farther away, now the light's more spread out, and now you're having an even amount of light all over. This is basically what we call flat lighting. Okay. This is when everything kind of has the same all the way across.
She's
You
a big
notice
bit crooked though.
the shadows are basically disappearing. Her shadow on the background, because we moved her from 4 feet all the way up to like 1.5 feet to the to the backdrop, created that shadow.
I think not even that.
But because it was so far away from the light is now wrapped sort of around her, so her shadow is not as sharp.
And you can see the transition because the light is far, so the light is harder. You can see exactly the transition in the shadow.
Right here.
You can see how dark it gets and how strong it is.
So here's
Especially in
the
the middle.
transition section right here. Right here's her hair. I mean, you can see this little loop of hair right here. You can see it right there. So, that distance created a smaller light source. Now, if he would have used a 7-foot umbrella from that distance, this shadow would have been just a blur, right? Because it's now wrapping more light, going to create more of a softer shadow. But
You can try
if you
that
look
next
at the
time.
But if you look at the face, there's hardly any shadowing in this cheek. I mean, it's very minimal shadow, right? The nose, you're starting to see some light hitting into the nose,
Can you
which
come
is
back
basic.
and get the first one again?
Yeah. So there's the first one. You can see how dark that shadow is. I mean, the fall off was so quick that the nose was in full shadow. The cheek, that cheek is really a nice indicator for you. Is you can see the roundness happening there. You're starting to see that heavy dimension. It shows dimension. That's what you want in a photo, is to get dimension, right? So on the second one, you can still see the dimension. It's there, right? The nose is a little subtle, so people that have bigger noses, pull that light out a little further. It helps reduce that shadow effect, right? And then, of course, from the
Liquify does the
distance,
same.
no, liquefy.
It makes the
But
nose smaller,
no, not the shadow.
but the nose it does.
Yeah, but then you see it in the shadow and you go, huh? So, but then again, when you got it at the 11 feet, 12 feet, whatever we had it, 8 feet. So 8 feet, now you can see the lights now wrapping the nose a little bit. It's giving more of a flatter light across the subject. That cheek isn't as predominantly shadowed. So you're seeing a little contour. You're just not seeing the dimension as a whole, like really deep dimension. And that's kind of what I try to stay away from when it comes to portraiture. So I don't like to be, this is probably the max I'll go is 8 feet. I don't think I've ever shot in less than 8
Yeah, I
or
think
more.
than this, it will just lose all the contrast. This is
Yeah.
already the contrast is already really low here. You
Well,
don't
this
really have.
8 feet. 8 feet is great for full body shots. I found. Okay, and what I
Yeah, yeah.
do is 8 feet is really my full body area. Starts at 8 to 10. Okay,
Especially if you have a big modifier to make those shadows softer.
right, and then 3, and then let's say 8 to 2 feet would be your 3/4 to half, and then you know 1, hell, even 6 inches to uh 4 feet would be basically head and shoulders. And
Yeah, I guess you're right. She's like one and a
that's how
half
I
feet
am.
in the background.
Yeah, she's really close to that background. So you could see how that shadow just meow right into it because she's close to this. So now the square law goes in the opposite effect to get the shadow. But yeah, I mean, you can see it. So, well, you're looking at that, how far she is.
Yeah, just got the other angle to see how far she is, but
So yeah, I'm looking at your tiles. Those are like what, 1 foot tiles, right?
I don't know. I have to put my foot there to check.
I think it's 1 foot by 1 foot. It's a standard. So you're she's about 1.5 feet from that backdrop. Part of me being a former cop is I like to look at details. So that sucks.
And
but
the
yeah,
other problem is that I cannot really see how many.
well, you could see
Yeah,
right
yeah, it's
there.
almost one and a half. One and a half. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
One and
So
a half
you're
tiles.
at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it stands 8 feet away from her. Exactly. So that's using things. See, like when you do the measurement, it's funny. Like if I'm in a location, I look at the squares on the floor for some reason, and I could tell if they're 2 feet, and I could tell if they're the 1 foot squares or 1.5 squares, whatever. And then I use those as like a checkerboard system, so I know how to get my distances quick and not worry about it. So it happens.
Okay, before my mom kills me and my wife kills me,
Yeah,
it's
I'm in
time
the
for
same
us
boat.
to.
Anyway, happy Mother's Day, everybody. Kiss your wives, kiss your moms, send them all kinds
Be
of
with your
gifts.
family.
My wife already got her flowers and crap. So, but today's Happy Mother's Day, and all your photographer moms out there, Happy Mother's Day. I hope your day goes great. I hope your family takes you out to eat. We're gonna have lobster, so
We're gonna have
I
a
got to
lot
get cooking.
of stuff.
So
We'll see you
anyway,
guys next week. Leave in the comments what you want to see in the next episode. If we're gonna go for hard and soft light, if we're gonna go, what is the other topic? Oh, differences in between
size,
monolights and speed lights
size,
and size of the modifier. Too, we can do whatever.
size of the light source. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Happy Mother's Day. We're out.
See you guys next week. Where is the intro? Oh, someone stole the intro room. Bye bye.
Huh? Later.